Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant here. Today, I am Graham G.S. Matthews as we review the Battleground pay-per-views in preparation for this year's installment. Today, we're talking about Battleground 2014 as seen on the WWE Network, an event I had not seen in full since it aired initially 2 years ago, but overall, a much better show than the 2013 installment. For my full review on that show, check out my last WrestleRant video, whatever number that was, but just go back in the playlist. Did not like that show, to pretty much sum it up, and it had one great match between Cody Rhodes, Goldust, and The Shield. This show had a number of good matches, a much better installment overall, maybe not as good as SummerSlam, but still a very good show that year in 2014. So Battleground 2014 kicked off with the WWE Tag Team titles, the Usos defending against the Wyatt family in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Phenomenal matchup, and anyone who remember the matches that these two teams had in the summer of 2014, nothing short of stellar. I had a lot of great matches on Raw and SmackDown. The Money in the Bank match was fucking phenomenal. It might have been on the kickoff show. I feel like it was in the kickoff show, and thank God they continued the feud beyond that point. I figured that because the Usos retained the Money in the Bank, they would lose the belts here. That was not the case. Usos won the last 2 falls to retain the titles, but the match itself was just exceptional. Like I said, that Money in the Bank match was pretty hard to top, but I thought they did so very well here. And they won't go on a huge rant about it, but I talked about it before. In that 2 out of 3 falls matches, to me, should feel like 3 matches in one, and I hate when 2 out of 3 falls matches, like the first fall's over in like 5 minutes. The only real exception to that was like the first Cesaro-Zayn match, the 2 out of 3 falls match from like August of 2013 on NXT, when Zayn won in like 2 seconds, because it was a fluke victory. He pinned him in like 2 seconds because he cheated or something. I don't know. He rolled him up. In this case, the first fall was over. It was a traditional match. It was over in like 5 minutes, if that. You know, the match got about 20 minutes. I was happy they got as much time as they did. The third fall went pretty long, but still, I felt like they should have done more to make it feel like 3 matches in one, which isn't everyone's cup of tea. I know people weren't happy with Zayn and Samoa Joe earlier this year going about like 40 minutes or whatever it was. It was a pretty long match. But at any rate, I thought this was a great match. It was a great match. The first fall was over in about a couple minutes. Wyatt family won clean. The second fall, the Usos won with a roll-up. And the third fall, they won with a double Uso splash on Luke Harper. I think it was Luke Harper, not Eric Rowan. I might be mistaken, but still, phenomenal matchup, which is what, as JBL said on commentary, tag team wrestling is all about. And an awesome way of kicking off the show, without a doubt. So after that, we had the Divas Championship on the line, AJ Lee defending against Paige, in a match I thought would be better than what it was. It felt like these matches that these two women had at Hell in the Cell, SummerSlam, Battleground, they never really fulfilled their full potential. And the fact they only got like 5 to 7 minutes didn't really help matters either. But still a good match. Again, it was a good match, especially in comparison to a lot of the matches that we got from the Divas Championship, the Divas title picture in years past. But just in comparison to what I thought they could do and they probably were capable of, it just didn't really click. Again, maybe it was in this match anyway, it felt like it was just the babyface versus babyface dynamic that was hurting it. Paige was in the midst of a heel turn. She wouldn't officially turn heel until like the next night's Raw, which is when the feud really started to kick off. But the whole feud, I felt like it just felt off. It felt just really off in that, they would go back and forth, and one day they were, one week they were friends, the next week they were enemies, the next week they were frenemies, the next week after that they were like lesbians. It was the weirdest thing. But anyway, a good match. AJ Lee won to retain her title. Like I said, Paige would go heel the next night on Raw to further that feud. After that, for the I thought it was for the U.S. Championship, but it's not. Rusev versus Jack Swagger in a match that kind of stemmed from their encounter on the post-Money in the Bank episode of Raw, which I was in attendance for, one of the best all-around episodes of Raw from that year, might I add. But Swagger, man, I tell you, when watching his entrance on this show, it just blows my mind that they really dropped the ball with him as a babyface. Right when he turned babyface, he was over as all hell. You can say it was just a We the People chant, but people were, for the first time in his career, really, were getting behind Jack Swagger, and they just really fucked it up. I'm not suggesting he should have beaten Rusev. Rusev would go undefeated for many more months after this. Swagger was not the one that should have beaten him. But it really just blows my mind they did not do more with him as a babyface. And it was just the weirdest thing. I don't know. The match was all right. Rusev would win via countout. Swagger had the ankle locked in a few times. And he had it on the outside, and Rusev reversed, threw him into the ring post, got back in the ring in time to beat the count, won the match via countout. He attacked Swagger afterwards, which I didn't really approve of. That was kind of unnecessary, but still. Again, the match was what it was, but what really stuck out to me while watching this match, or at least the pre-match stuff, the entrances and whatever, was that Swagger was so freaking over as a babyface, and they really squandered that with just having him lose to Rusev time and time again. He never gave Rusev his comeuppance. Maybe he beat him like once on like an episode of Tribute to the Troops last year, like a year and a half later. But other than that, he never really gave Rusev what was coming to him. But still, like I said, a decent match. I was fond of the finish. It built to a bigger match at Survivor Series, or rather SummerSlam the next month. After that, we had Chris Jericho versus Bray Wyatt. And again, a lot like with the Paige and AJ stuff, I felt like the feud and the match itself on this show wasn't what it could have been. It didn't really fulfill its full potential. They had a decent rhythm, but it just wasn't there for me. I was expecting, maybe I set my expectations a lot higher than I should have. It wasn't a bad match. It was an all right match, but again, a lot like with Paige and AJ, just not as good of a match as I thought it could have been. Jericho winning clean. The Wyatt family members were banned from ringside halfway through, allowing Jericho to score the clean victory, which I didn't really approve of. I mean, it was good for Jericho to score at least one victory in the feud. But coming off of Wyatt's losses at Money in the Bank, at Payback, at WrestleMania, and don't even bring up to me that awful Extreme Rules went inside the steel cage. That was fucking terrible. But this was not really any way to get Wyatt back on track. Again, it gave Jericho a rare, clean victory on pay-per-view. But it did nothing for Wyatt. I mean, he would get his win back at SummerSlam. He would beat Jericho again on Raw inside the steel cage match, which was a lot better. Which was probably their best bout in the entire rivalry, but it just felt underwhelming for whatever reason. But again, a great video package too, a really, really good video package. And before I forget, I might as well mention this too. We were supposed to have Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins on this show, and a lot of this show was just building towards SummerSlam. That was purely the purpose of this pay-per-view, and I'll get to that at the end. But it did not come to fruition because Ambrose attacked Seth Rollins backstage before the bout, and he got escorted out of the arena, or thrown out of the arena, basically, by security. Came back to attack Rollins in the parking lot, and Rollins scurried off, and there was no match officially held. They just brawled throughout the show in a really hot brawl in the middle of the ring, which was great to see. So that was awesome. I thought that was a great way of furthering their feud, and I was really happy. I mean, some people at the time were disappointed that it was a bait and switch. They didn't have the match. Like, how could you advertise such a thing and not deliver? It's not like it was the main event, people. I mean, I thought it was great. I thought that it was awesome the way they handled this and very wise booking and saving their first ever in-ring and, one-on-one in-ring encounter for SummerSlam, which is what they should have. I thought it was very strange they kind of gave away a lot of matches on this show with AJ and Paige, Jericho and Wyatt, then Ambrose and Rollins. I'm like, why not just save all these first-time ever matches for SummerSlam? And thankfully they would in the case of Ambrose and Rollins. And instead we got a really hot brawl that set the stage for their SummerSlam match very nicely. So after that, we had the Battle Royal to determine the next Intercontinental Champion after Bad News Barrett had to forfeit the championship due to injury. And Battle Royals are Battle Royals. Barrett came out afterwards or beforehand saying that whoever's champion better watch out. They're going to get hit with a bull hammer. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. But that's an awful English accent. I know, I apologize. But the Battle Royals are just Battle Royals. But I enjoyed this one. I mean, even at the time and watching it back, because there was a lot of potential winners. There wasn't one person I thought will win or would win. And all the people I thought could win kind of survived until the end for the most part. Cesaro, who was already on a kind of a downward spiral, him losing here, getting tossed up by Heath Slater, really served no purpose. It wasn't as if, Slater got pushed or whatever coming out of this. It really served no purpose because Slater was back to being a jobber right after the pay-per-view. So him going back and eliminating Cesaro really was pointless. But other than that, I thought there was a lot of great spots here. You had Bo Dallas last until like the final 4 or 5. Sheamus, who was the U.S. champion, making that title look completely irrelevant and going for the IC championship like it wasn't a big deal at all. That was kind of dumb. You had Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, a number of, probable strong candidates to win the championships. That was pretty cool. So it came down to Sheamus and Ziggler. Ziggler finally eliminates Sheamus in surprisingly clean fashion. The crowd went nuts. Miz, who was outside the ring for a majority of the match, came back in to win the championship and toss out Ziggler. Or rather, in the reverse order, toss out Ziggler, then win the championship as a result of that elimination to score his third IC title. So I was very happy with Miz winning. I thought he did a great job as champion. I mean, albeit his reign was only a month long before dropping it back to Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam. But Miz was doing the best work of his career at that time in the whole moneymaker gimmick. I mean, he still is now. I feel like the character has evolved even more so in the last 2 years with him having, adopting Maurice by his side and that whole shtick. So that was pretty great. But I was very happy with Miz winning. A lot of people weren't happy with it, but it was a great way of furthering his, great push as this moneymaker, Hollywood A-lister douche, as he would call himself. The A-lister part, not the douche part, but he was an A-lister Hollywood douche at that point in time in his career, and he still is to this day, and I thought it was a great character for Miz and a brilliant way of furthering his momentum, so I had no issue with the outcome here. And then we get to the main event, a fatal four-way matchup for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. John Cena defending against Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, and Kane. And a pretty good match. I mean, it was very predictable that Cena was winning, but they incorporated a lot of suspenseful moments. I mean, it was very formulaic towards the end. Finisher 1, 2, someone breaks it up. Finisher 1, 2, someone breaks it up. It was more so Cena and Roman hitting their finishers and having someone break it up like a Kane or like a Kane or Randy or Kane or Orton, whatever, than it was, Kane or Orton coming close to winning the championship. It was very predictable that they weren't winning. If anything, Roman might win, but it was pretty, foreseeable. It was a pretty foreseeable outcome with Cena retaining, but still an entertaining match for what it was, albeit a formulaic theme to it throughout the course of the matchup, albeit at least in the second half of it. And like some entertaining action, so I didn't really mind it. In the end, Cena hitting the AA on both Cena and Orton, hitting the AA on himself, hitting the AA on Kane and Orton, and pinning Kane to retain his WWE World Heavyweight Championship, going into SummerSlam where he would defend against the Beast Brock Lesnar, who was coming back from his sabbatical, hiatus, whatever. Resurfacing for the first time since WrestleMania, where he ended the Undertaker's streak. But overall, I liked the show. I mean, back then, I liked it when I saw it for the first time watching it back. It was a good show, not a great show, but definitely set the stage for SummerSlam. I thought overall it was very entertaining and a huge improvement, like I said, over Battleground 2013. Not the best installment. I thought Battleground last year was better, so I look forward to watching and reviewing that for you guys in my next video. But Battleground 2014, quick recap here. Awesome opener. I would say easily the match of the night between the Usos and the Wyatt family. AJ and Paige, good match. Not what it could have been, but still a good match in the beginning of the feud. Same thing, basically, with Rusev and Swagger, Jericho and Wyatt. The Battle Royale was fun. Ambrose and Rollins, a fantastic way of furthering that feud. So a lot of filler, basically, before SummerSlam. We would have a lot of these rematches at SummerSlam. The main event was entertaining, albeit predictable, but still a very enjoyable main event. So I give the show a thumbs up. I enjoyed it, so be sure to check it out on the WWE Network. One match to watch if you only have time for one match. Easily the opener. That was undoubtedly the match of the night. So that is Battleground 2014 as seen on the WWE Network. As always, guys, thank you for watching and listening to my review. I'll be back in my next video to talk about Battleground 2015 as we prepare for the 2016 installment in a few more weeks. So until then, guys, you guys can follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews and right here on YouTube by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. So until next time, guys, I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.